Hey guys, King of Charmass here. Today I'll be a judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you the top 5 of Open Ultra League. Open Ultra League is the bane of your existence. Like, you know, Bane from Batman, where you don't quite have a mask, but you know what? It's dark, it's scary, and there's a giant guy that's trying to kill you. Well, more like giant legendary Pokemon that are trying to kill you. In other words, unlike Batman, which is a great franchise, Open Ultra League is not a great franchise, not being the favorite, like I said, of many battlers. I actually made Legend twice in Open Ultra League, so I'm kind of biased, but I know some of you don't like it, and for good reason. Legendaries suck, and they're overpowered. Literally. So, these are the top 10 leads for Open Ultra League. Again, please follow Ytxpikachu. This data is provided by him. And, of course, I'm going to give you the top 10 leads, analysis on data. But they're going to be pretty quick because Open Ultra League has been pretty stable for the longest time. It kind of just shifts around a bit. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, at number 10 we have Umbreon. Umbreon surprisingly wasn't that popular for this rotation. At 9.2%, so 1 out of 10 Umbreon, 1 out of 10 teams had an Umbreon in them at 2.5%. So, like I said, not a lot of people had Umbreon leads. It's still really good for the fact that it breaks the big three. However, it does lose things to things like Melmetal, Articuno. Alolan Muck can give you an issue just because it has Sludge Wave. Things that are really bulky like Lapras as well as Obstagoon. Umbreon still is very, very powerful in the lead though. Does a lot, is very good position-wise in a lot of situations. It's just really interesting because as far as Umbreon goes, it's very tanky and you don't want to get punched in the face. Melmetal is also a popular lead, so that's why Umbreon's still a great league, as you see here. Some people were using it, but as a top 10 lead, it's also very risky just because of your key losses. And at number 9 we have Gyarados. Gyarados at 7.3% and at 3.3%, so it dropped off a lot as well. Gyarados isn't a super as popular as I remember it to be, but it's still very powerful. Dragon Breath Gyarados is able to smack the unholy crap out of Giratina and Swampert, which are its two main targets. It also does very well against things like Talonflame in the lead, so Gyarados is a very strong mon. There's also a strategy you can use where you sacrifice Gyarados and never switch out of it, then farm down whatever's in the back, and then throw your energy. So Gyarados in the lead is a very powerful mon with Dragon Breath and Aqua Tail. The only problem is, like it says here, it's volatile. It's just double weak to a lot of things, which is why you, even though electric types are probably going to be your worst nightmare with this thing, losing to Cresselia as well as Togekiss, Obstagoon, Alolan Muck, those are popular picks. And just because Gyarados isn't super bulky, as you see here, it has a very low defense stat, has a lot of attack, but basically that's what it is with Gyarados. It's extremely powerful though, so I'm not surprised to see it as a top 10 lead. Still very good and very powerful in Season 8, part 3? Yep, part 3. Alright, next up we have Empoleon. Empoleon is at number 98, however, it's a very powerful lead for the sheer reason it beats a whole lot of combinations. In the 2-shield, you're able to beat things like Melmetal, you can beat Togekiss as well as Cresselia. Has very good effective, it's very, very effective against a lot of things. And also, if you have Blizzard, you can destroy Giratina Altered. Just saying. But Empoleon is a very, very strong pick. And it still has its cheap 10k Dust. Hydro Cannon for a legacy move. But it's still being used in this meta. And it's very, very strong. I faced a few Empoleons. And it also takes out a lot of Talonflame leads. So it has a very good, against a lot of top leads here, it does very, very well. Empoleon is also very cheap, like I mentioned, so not a surprise to see a lot of people still using the Penguin in their team. In fact, 12% of teams are using a Penguin, so 1 out of 10 teams have an Empoleon in their team. Very, very strong, like I mentioned. Not really much wrong with it other than its weaknesses. Basically, anything that resists water type attacks or anything that's super effective against steel, which is why Obstagoon and Swampert beat the unholy crap out of you. Other than that, it's a very powerful mon, and like I said, very budgety, but still really good for Open Ultra League. Alright, this hunk of junk, the Decepticon, the Transformer, more than meets the Lugnut. Okay, you know what, that's... I'm kind of tired. Anyways, we got Melmetal as next. Melmetal is still a very powerful lead. For the longest time it has. takes out a lot of things and also takes out Talonflame as well. So that's why through trial and practice, Melmetal is still an incredibly powerful mon. As you see, it takes out it takes out a lot of the meta, and just generally Melmetal, it has just been such a beast. Rock Slide and Superpower is a great combination. Thundershock charges really quickly. It's a very, very powerful overall mon. The only problem is basically the fast move pressure. It's just Thundershock can give you an issue just because it's resisted by a lot of things, and you don't get stabbed, so you don't get the same type attack bonus. It's also very tricky because a lot of times what you're going to be doing is you're going to have to double up or have really great energy management with Melmetal. But if you are watching this and you've been playing Go Battle League for a while, you probably know that Melmetal is probably one of the most annoying things since sliced bread, and to this day is a really, really great mon. Alright, next up we got Machamp. Machamp is 9.2%. It's a very powerful lead in Open Ultra League. Still a very, very powerful and a top 10 lead. 38% we're using the Shadow version, and at 3.6% it is a very, well, not super popular, but it's a popular lead. Well, yeah, not super popular, but it's still very good for the fact that you can beat things like Talonflame as well as Articuno straight Rock Slide. You also basically smack Obstagoon to oblivion, but it's incredibly strong. Also beats out Melmetal, like I mentioned, Obstagoon very well against Excavalier, Lapras, as well as Alolan Muck. A lot of great combinations you beat. Of course, your key losses are to Giratina Altered. Gira just has such a strong match against you. Swampert outpaces you, and of course, Cresselia will give you a huge problem just because it's super tanky and you are weak to Psychic types. But other than that, Machamp is still a beast. Like I said, it's a glass cannon, but other than that, it has a lot of fast move pressure because of counter, and of course, it's going to dump a whole bunch of shields. Well, you're going to dump a whole bunch of shields against it because you're going to be blocking all of its moves, especially if you lose the lead against it. Alright, speaking of Cresselia, the Giant Space Jetsons duck is at number 7 in the lead. Lucky number 7, not for you. If you remember back in the day in Season 2 when Cresselia's Moonblast had a 30% succession rate of dropping your attack, it was so godforsakingly overpowered, you had to essentially have one in your team. But it was super annoying, that's why it got debuffed, and Moonblast is now at 10%, as far as the debuff goes. But Cresselia is still a very powerful lead because of its boost set. Grass Knot absolutely destroys Swampert, Moonblast gives you that debuff potential, and it is also extremely bulky. Because of that, it's really, really strong, and it's able to beat a whole bunch of different combinations. It's also an incredibly powerful Safe Switch, or good in all positions. The only problem, it's super expensive. You can use the Future Sight one as well. Future Sight gives you a better matchup against Talonflame, and it's also, you get stabbed, same type of attack bonus, so it hits really, really hard. Since Season 2 and its release, Cresselia has been incredibly powerful, and to this day is one of the most powerful mons in Open Ultra League, as well as one of the most popular leads. Standing at a 5.8%, 18% of teams were using Cresselia, so 1 out of 5 teams were still using a Cresselia. That just shows how good long-term it really is, because it is a top 3 mon in all teams. Alright, now the most powerful lead statistically is Talonflame. Since Talonflame's release, it's been an absolute destroyer of worlds. Not too many things resist fire and flying, which is why it's so good. It's used in 17.9% teams, so almost 1 out of 5 teams had a Talonflame, and at 6.5% is an incredibly popular lead. Talonflame is a beast, like I mentioned, just because of the reason of the fact that it does so much damage. You can either Brave Bird to threaten shields and then swap out, or if you Brave Bird through shields, you will do so much damage to your opponent that you put them really far behind. As you see, beats a whole lot of the meta in the lead. If you manage to get through shields, like against Giratina Alter, it does a big ton of damage. Of course, you have a huge match against Cresselia, because essentially you resist both Moonblast and Grass Knot. You resist the Charmers, and it's just really good. The only issue is that with Swampert does beat you in the 2 shields, so just be careful. But other than that, as long as you are able to get a Brave Bird, one Brave Bird can almost nearly wipe out a Swampert at full HP. So as long as Swampert has chip, you can wipe it out with Talonflame. Of course, you do lose to things like Melmetal, Empoleon Gyarados, just because water as well as rock is double super effective against Talonflame, so it's going to suck a lot if they drop a bunch of rocks against you. So just keep that in mind. Gengar can also outpressure you with Shadow Punch, which is why it's rated so high. Very powerful though in the 2 shield, and that's why it is one of the most powerful leads. Has a huge learning curve though. Super violent, and like I said, against rocks, you're double weak to it. It's also kind of really bad. Because of Incinerate and the way it's animated at 5 moves, it can be kind of inconsistent, and if you lag with a 5-turn mon, it sucks. But still, if you use Talonflame, there's a good reason why. It's a very popular lead, Number 4 as far as overall teams, and still at 6.5%, is one of the top 5 most popular leads in Open Ultra League. Alright, now, if you listen to Kiss is a fantastic band. And also, it is the Obstagoon, the Goon, the Goonster, the Booster, the Destroyer of your Elo and my Elo because of the boost. It is at number 4, basically one of the top 5 leads. Obstagoon is incredibly cheap lead, 10k for the second move, 6.9, 69, very nice number, extremely powerful number, very good number, one of the best numbers of all time other than 420, but other than that, at 6.9%, it is a top 5 lead. Still very popular because it's cheap like I mentioned, but it has so much utility just because of its moveset. Gunk Shot lets you KO fairies, Hyper Beam will put your opponent in a lot of danger if you land it, especially since it gets the same type attack bonus, as well as Night Slash Boost. Does very well against a lot of combinations. As you see here, beats Gear Altered. If your Gear Altered has Shadow Claw and you see this thing, it's going to be a nightmare for you because it triple resists Ghost moves. So it's just so versatile. Yes, your key losses against Melmetal, Cresselia, etc. But that's Melmetal lands a superpower. Cresselia isn't low enough to where you can't Night Slash it to death. And, of course, if you don't see fighters, which is basically Excavalier. If you see a fighter, run. But Obstagoon is incredibly powerful and does really well. The only problem is its double weakness to fighting, where outside of that, just because of everything I mentioned before, it's still a popular lead. At 13.4%, it's a top 5 overall mon, so 1 out of 10 teams are using an Obstagoon, and like I said, 6.9 is a top 5 lead. Has been a very popular lead for a while, one of the most popular leads, and still a top 5 lead. And at number 2, I'm not really surprised, but boy Swampert, boy or girl, because Swampert can be either gender. As you see, Swampert is incredibly strong and incredibly it's incredibly popular and powerful. At 20.7%, 1 of 4 teams were using Swampert. For the longest time, Swampert has been one of the most powerful Open Ultra League mons, and to this day is still really freaking good. 7.3% as a lead, so it's the number 2 lead, but also the number 2 overall used. 1 of 4 teams have a Swampert in them, and for good reason. It's really that powerful. You can take out Giratina Altered in the 0 straight Earthquake. You can Hydro Cannon so many things to death, and if you have Expert Energy Management, will absolutely obliterate your opponent because Hydro Cannon does so much damage. The only problem is it's low fast move pressure, and also you die to pretty much 1 grass move for most ranges. That's why Grass Knot's super good against you, and that's why you don't want to get Solar Beam, because if you get Solar Beam, you die. It's that simple. But the only problem is you also need an Elite TM if you don't have it yet. But definitely, if in the future, you should consider building a Swampert, because long term, it does so well in so many leagues, and Open Ultra League is a top 3 mon. Like I said, it's at a quarter of teams. It's really that powerful, and definitely consider getting one. Shadow is also being used at 7.7%, so the Shadow is usable. I don't recommend it though, just because that extra bulk can matter a lot. But if you really are confident in your ability, Shadow Swampert is a monster in Open Ultra League. And the number 1 most powerful lead is Giratina Altered. Why do I sound really depressed when I say that? Because Giratina Altered is... It's really good, don't get me wrong. It's really freaking powerful, it's just super annoying. Giratina Altered is the number 1 lead for good reason. It beats Talonflame. Overall, it just puts so much... You could beat things like Melmetal. You give the fighting types a horrible time. You also are able to beat Empoleon, Swampert, because Swampert... You actually have a lot of pressure on Swampert just because Swampert has to Earthquake you to win. So it has to double Earthquake you in order to kill you. So other than that, Gear A is incredibly powerful. Does a lot of work and is really, really strong in this meta. So Giratina is just a beast. So just keep in mind, if you do have one, it's great. If you don't have one, it kind of sucks because it is the number 1 lead. At 29%, a third of teams had a Giratina Altered in it. And at 12.9%, it was out of 1 out of 10 teams that you will encounter have a Giratina Altered in the lead. Gear A is an incredibly powerful lead. Just because of, like I said, it beats Empoleon, it beats Talonflame, Dragon Claw, and Shadow Sneak is a fantastic combination, and it's just so bulky that it's really that good. A lot of top teams and a lot of future teams had Gear A in the lead to take shields or just outright destroy your opponent because it's that bulky. With Shadow Claw, you gain a lot of energy. You also have the option of using Dragon Breath just in case you want to avoid Obstagoon. So, if you're using Giratina Altered, not really surprised why. It's really that powerful. 1 out of 10 leads, like I said, had it, and over a third of teams, and 1 out of 3 teams have a Giratina Altered in it. So, If you are making a team, you might want to have a lead that beats a Giratina Alter, just saying. But other than that, it's incredibly powerful, and Giratina A for the longest time has dominated Open Ultra League from Season 1, well, actually from the preseason up to Season 8. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I mentioned, if you've been watching my videos for a while, I keep telling all of you that Open Ultra League's meta does not change a lot. It kind of just how things like flip around. The only major effect that the meta had on Open Ultra League was when Talonflame released, or Dragon Tail Lugia, that too. But either way, Open Ultra League is generally the same meta for the longest time. It's very stable, so if you're good in Open Ultra League, generally you won't have to switch or invest in a lot of mons, unless something like something like meta breaking like Talonflame comes out. Like I said before, until Talonflame came out, Open Ultra League did not change too much at all. So hopefully you are having fun in well, I wouldn't say having fun. Hopefully you are having fun, but Open Ultra League is a very good place to invest your Stardust in, because like I said, the meta doesn't change too much. Other than that, as you see here, as far as Open Ultra League meta comes, it looks like Giratina Alter is the most popular one. Not super surprised, but it's also very strong, and it can break a lot of shields, and just does so well against a lot of overall meta picks. So, if you don't have one, might want to get one for the future. But other than that, there's still a lot of powerful picks. Again, what happens with Open Ultra League is that usually things just flip around, whatever's popular at the time, but generally it's the same core, core mons or common mons that are still top leads or top team cores, etc. So they're very powerful Pokemon. But other than that, Open Ultra League, it's likely you're playing it if you don't like Ultra League Remix, or you're just skipping Ultra League altogether just because of the fact you don't like Ultra League, which is perfectly fine. But this data did come out yesterday. Please follow Ytxpikachu. Would you do me a huge favor? Please like and subscribe. It's totally free. Helps for my sub goal by the end of the year of 3K subs. You can easily subscribe by using the little box at the bottom where all you have to put your mouse over it, sub tab pops, and then you can easily subscribe from there. For all my subscribers that already subscribed, I really do appreciate you. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.